Good evening. I'm here to continue the video series of my collection. Anybody that knows me knows that I have, or at least what I have been trying to get, are the debut cards of all the first 21 figures. And so, of course, that goes beyond just the Star Wars cards. The first 21 on Empire Strikes Back cards, and the first 21, of course, on the Jedi cards. Now, both of those cards, of course, came with offers and were not offerless. So I'll kind of treat this a little bit like Jeff did in terms of just maybe giving a little bit of information regarding those transition cards, because, of course, none of the figures that were in that movie's card were put on those first transition cards. So, for example, none of the Return of the Jedi figures were on the debut Jedi cards. I guess you'd expect that. But anyways, so the first transition card, of course, is the ESB 21 backs. In the sort of new version of the Matrix, there were some changes that were thought that needed to be made, in that they had extended the lettering from the Star Wars cards into the ESB cards. And so we kind of thought about it and thought it needed a new designation. So the basic offer is what we call the ESB 21A, which everybody knows. There's the Starburst offer on the front. And then, of course, on the back is the sticker that shows the offer. Sorry, I'm just waiting for someone to open my door. So anyways, I'm going to pause this just for a second. Someone's trying to sneak in on me. But anyways, so that is the ESBA. Now, the ESB 21B had the red extension rectangle down here. Now, I actually don't have one of those, which makes me a little sad. But the one that I do have, which is the ESB 21C, of course, it wouldn't be a show without showing a FET. This is my 21A FET. And then, of course, then the next one was the Bosk sticker, the round sticker. And then, of course, there's the combination where it had both the Bosk as well as the red extension sticker down here. Okay. So those are the ESB. So I've, basically have the first 21 on the ESB 21s. Now, the question has always been which ones were the most difficult to get. I don't think anybody would argue that the Stormtrooper is probably the number one most difficult one to get. Then you can bump it up by adding any of the extension stickers on the back and really make this a massive prize. But anyways, this is probably the most difficult one to get on this card back. And then, believe it or not, the FET, which is actually quite easy to get, but one of the other hard ones to get is actually the Tusken Raider. Now, someone will argue with this, but you don't see these all too often. And then, of course, the initial one is the Jawa. Could be a little bit difficult to get. The rest of them are fairly easy. I think Chewbacca is another one that's sometimes difficult to get, but the rest of them are pretty easy. I think the easiest are like 3PO, Leia's very easy, Hammerhead's very easy. But anyway, so those are the Empire transition cards. Now I'm going to go to the first 21 on the Jedi transition card. Of course, that was the 48 back. Now, again, in the old nomenclature, which is what I'm going to call the old nomenclature, these were 48Ds. But again, this was an extension of the ESB 48 backs. So we decided again that I think it would be best to start with A. So this would be a 48A. And the interesting thing about the 48As is that there are 3 different backs of the cards, and we'll go over that. So this, of course, is just your standard free offer here. Then on the back is, of course, the offer itself. Now, the difference in the 3 backs are basically where these lines are, meaning that the A and B have 2 lines and the C has 3 lines like this one. So this is obviously a 48C. Now this one is a 48B because the long line is on top, short line on the bottom. And then and of course the magic one to me, again the FET, this is a 48A, which is the short line on top, just the Star Wars, and then of course the long line on the next one. Okay, so once again, the FET is actually very hard to get with a clear bubble. Most of them have some yellowing of sorts, but those can be difficult to find. So that's a one, but I think to me, and I looked for these for many years, the most difficult one had always been the Luke X-Wing. It took me forever. In fact, the only reason that I got this one was because a collector that had an X-Wing Focus was finally breaking up his collection. That's the only way. There was I've seen maybe 1 or 2 free on the market, and they lasted no time at all. And this one is this is a 48B. Now, another difficult one is thought to be the Stormtrooper. Now, interestingly enough, I've seen more Palatoy Stormtroopers than I have just the regular U.S. release. And the Palatoy ones, of course, have the white sticker that's over the address that has, guess what, a UK address. But anyways, but this one is also very difficult to get, and I think especially, again, difficult to get in good condition. Now the other one there's actually several that are supposed to be difficult. Greedo, sort of in a spectacular condition, obviously can be very difficult to get. It took me a while to find Greedo. There's no doubt about that. The bin sometimes can be difficult to get. And then I guess the last 2, of course, are the Chewbacca. Again, the Chewbacca tends to have more of a blister that yellows, and so finding a clear Chewbacca has been very difficult. Clearly, I have not found one, so there's that one. And the same thing with the 3PO. The removable limbs 3PO is thought to be difficult to find with a clear bubble. Once again, I have failed at that, but I'm very happy with the one I have. Anyways, I'm not going to bother showing you the rest of the ESBA 21s or the ROTJ 48As through, Cs, just because you've seen all these. But I think it's sometimes fun to learn some of the nuances in terms of what to call these, and especially these are 2 of the cardbacks that have undergone at least what the proposed, let's say, transition in the Kellerman Matrix version 2. So check that Facebook group out if you can. Contribute if you can. There's a lot of great new combinations that come in on a weekly basis. I think that is by far the most solid collection of combination card backs and fronts, but there are some changes that were proposed on that were geared to make classification a little bit more straightforward. There's a lot of things, especially the FET offer 20 backs. that I'll actually do a video on later. There's, greater than 50 variations of just the card back. And I think that unfortunately all the matrices or all the classifications that have been on before just hadn't done a complete job. And so we've made some proposals to change that up. So hopefully you enjoyed a little education on the transition cards between Star Wars ESB and ROTJ and some of my collection. And hopefully you guys have a good night. Now, Joel, I'll actually, since I'm no good at this, and since I'm just seeing your questions, I will bring that up. So hold on. So Joel, here is the brown-haired Luke 48. As you can see, it almost as if I painted the bubble yellow, but it's there. But anyways, this was at one time, I guess it was graded yellow, but this is a pretty nice condition, unpunched, 48B ROTJ. But anyway, so there you go, Joel. There it is, the brown here. So you can see it there. All right. Let's put that right there. All right. Well, you guys stay safe. Have a good night. We'll see what Jeff. Funny comments, Jeff. At one time, yes. At one time, I was actually scholarly and actually read. Nowadays, not so much. I think I've probably read Kellerman more times than I've read the textbooks that I studied in school. So there you go. All right. You guys have a good night. Like I said, stay safe. Please follow instructions. You know what I'm talking about. Crazy time, but you just got to roll with it. So, all right. Now I'm going to figure out. I don't want to have the same mistake Jeff did. I got to figure out how to stop this. But I'll keep talking. So, all right. You guys have a good night, like I said.